Hello and welcome, and it is that of Crypto Day, 7th of June 2018. And I'd like to welcome you to today's video, starting off with Bitcoin in at 76.86 and 92 cents. When I look at first a search term of student loan debt on YouTube, my results show me Tucker, student loan debt is crushing an Earth generation. This is a month ago, almost 100,000 views. 3 days ago on the Dave Ramsey show, over $1 million student loan debt. That's a pretty high number. And another one with 375,000, same show 2 months earlier. Debt slavery. Scholarship, a documentary about the student debt crises. This woman paying $900 a month in student loans. That's more than rent should be if you really want the basic rent payment. But anyway, federal student loans. What happens if you don't pay? And what happens if we as humans say no to the fiat debt-based system? And what happens if us humans say yes? Well, if we say yes, it's what's happening now. My 135,000 student debt loan story, another 225K, voices of debt, the student loan crises. I'm not going to read the last part. PBS looks into student loan debt problem, and there's someone not so happy about 217,000. And we can just congratulate the economic model for working, because it guarantees debt to extensive levels. And furthermore, when you look at technological unemployment, that's an issue that's pretty serious. And I have yet to hear a politician, whether it be American, Canadian, or even some other nation somewhere else, talking about the idea. I used to work in a factory which had production, and this is going back now a decade and a half ago. They produced probably 2 to 3 times the amount of output they did 2 decades before, and they did so with over 60% less employees. And then, of course, I lost my job because they shut down and moved to Mexico. That's how the world works. We have computers that are taking jobs. So it used to be, when I was going to college for the first time, and this is now over 2 decades ago, that it was, you could get your college degree, and well, if you have a high school degree only, that's not guaranteed a good job, although it could. I mean, there's some good factory jobs out there that pay. From what I remember back in the day, if you can get 18, 20 bucks an hour at a factory 20 years ago, that was doable. Of course, that was at a good factory 20 years ago. And if you had a high school diploma, well, you could do a lot more. Although it seems some of those factories that paid well, they wanted high school educations as well, because, well, more people had them, supply and demand. And now we have college graduates with those debts getting 24 hours at some sort of minimum wage style job. That's the way this world is moving into. So why am I getting into things like cryptos and precious metals? I understand that the awakening for the debt-based system is in play. Episode 1 of Hidden Secrets of Money from Mike Maloney has 2.7 million views, and it should have more than that. And over 7 million within Money, the Biggest Scam, as it's entitled. Now, of course, if you talk to people about these types of issues today, still the vast majority are very clueless within the situation. And I can remember looking back almost 10 years ago, when I was looking back 12 years ago from then, or 13 years ago, at one of my college economic textbooks about fiat currency. Because I didn't remember learning it when I was there. but I found the page in my book, because I still had my book from then, that talked about it, how if us as humans basically ever say no to that of faith to the system, that it could pretty much collapse. It's 100% purely based on it. But we don't vote every year or every 4 years. Do we still want to have a fiat currency system? No. And then, to me, I look at all of the leaders this world has had, and I wish that one of those days one would talk about fiat currencies and how the system needs to change, technological unemployment, and how we as humans have to manage such a situation that is happening on the planet. That's what I would hope for one of these days, but I don't get too optimistic for such. And here I am talking about 5-6 minutes, just about, I would like to say irrelevant topics, but quite frankly, they're more relevant than all the stuff I usually always do talk about. Okay, so I'm into holding Bitcoin, I'm holding precious metals. I wonder why. And it's been already that of a long wait. That if I were to wake up tomorrow and the fiat empire on a global level is pretty much collapsing at a free fall or close to such speed, and over the next many days and weeks things are just going crazy, I would say that was fast and that was slow, because I've been waiting for a better part of a decade now, and I plan to probably have to do so for maybe another decade, maybe 2. But I realize it's already been a long wait. And a lot of the waiting is for a combination of 2 things: for the systematic events of our system to get so bad, which seems to be how it's going to have to be, or for enough people to be aware of the situation where something's going to change. There's a decent amount of people that disagree with the 911 story, yet nothing ever gets changed to how it's supposed to be perceived. Okay. So we have this here. Bitcoin, to me, waste of energy. It works. It's better than anything I've ever had before as far as transferring coin back and forth. It's a big waste of energy, but it works. And it's technically not a debt-backed based system where the fiat currency is. But when I look at all the people talking bad about Bitcoin because it is a Ponzi scheme, or it's basically worth nothing, or some people would say that, okay, it's got little value in what I state, it's a transaction of payment back and forth in a workable system, but just because it's workable, does that mean it's supposed to be worth 7,700? After all, if a camera's working, should it be worth $7,000 just because it's working? And then one might say the same thing. Well, maybe the working system should be worth more. And see, I don't know, but I realize if I hold a little bit of cryptos and I got the opportunity to trade it along the way, that I'll be fine. Of course, I can use such an event to turn them into physical precious metals as well, which is, to me, a very beautiful option to have. And then when you're holding fiat currency, just think of the actual event of what you are doing. You're holding something that's going to continuously lose value. You're going to notice gas prices and all your expenses going up long term. And a system of people just, it's with a technological unemployment as we see it, this is, or as I see it rather, and as I've researched it, it's going to be a very, very interesting situation moving forward. So then, I've already talked a lot about this on the technicals, and I'm obviously not using this too much to go over the charts, other than I realized how the situation of the events could unfold, because I got 3 things. There's fiat, There's precious metals. And really there's only two. Because I look at gold and silver, they're the two. Copper, no. It's like $3-4 a pound. So you have 100 pounds of such. $400 worth, and you really want to put that in your truck and drive it to... It's gold and silver. If I can get palladium without having paying taxes, I'd add that to the list. I guess same thing with platinum. And then you have cryptos. See, just think of how your portfolio would act if you had 100% in one of those three. And if you had approximately a third in each of the three. See, if all you had was fiat, which means you got cash, whether it be digital and or in the M1 value, I guess, or in plastic rectangles. Maybe you got in stocks, bonds, any banking type of instruments. Maybe you have online poker accounts. That's all fiat. And in a system where it can go through a major and like a hyperinflationary collapse, it's pretty much almost like a volcano. And I know they've been exploding. I don't know if that's a good reference to use, but it kind of is, in the sense of they're just due to erupt, as to me the fiat currency is as well. But is there a chance that fiat currencies do so well that it's just worth holding? Maybe you notice all of a sudden that the bag of chips that when you were a kid was 80 cents today is like $2 or $3. Maybe it'll go back down to 50 cents and everything else will go down as well. No, that's not going to happen. But maybe everything else will fall and you'll be happy to be in fiat. That's always a possibility. After all, precious metals. If you've been holding precious metals for the last little while, just by holding this as your 100%, that has been your worst play. Holding fiat has been better, and definitely holding cryptos have been better. Now, if a situation you hold fiat and it goes to nothing, you're in bad shape if that's all you got. And if they keep on manipulating the silver and gold market as they are right now, and you just your value just gets devalued over time, and only price pays. So even though you bought it at whatever number, say silver at an average price of $19, and it goes down to 13, well, I got to sell it for like 12 against just to, and I'm going to lose on it. And that obviously is in play possibly. Now cryptos, obviously we know holding that 100% or close to it, really, you can go real broke or you can get real rich really fast with that game. However, if say you put a third of this into such last year, or you took your fiat and you took a third of it and bought each of the two following, then you would have noticed that after a year, we'll just say you still had 1 unit here, and precious metals, I know you might have lost a bit, they might have still worth 1 unit. And then cryptos were up like quite a bit, might have been worth 15 units because they literally exploded. So if you're diversifying, then that's why when the markets were high, to bring this number down and these two higher, that would have meant you would have needed to turn cryptos into precious metals. That's really easy to do. And then turn it into fiat. And then, of course, keep some and such where you could be worth like 5 units in each. Or you could develop it to how you wish from that point on. But what's the chances that holding all 3 of these evenly is going to be a bad play? And when I say this, I also should point out that your living conditions are in very good standing. This is investment portfolio. So what you have for your food, shelter, medicine, and all that type of stuff is in good standing. And when I look at the US debt clock, which has a national debt at 21.2 trillion US fiat debt notes, which is basically what the system is exactly that of. This website says the savings per family, not citizen, family, is in at $4,009. That's less than 1/2 of a Bitcoin. That's about 250 ounces of silver. Less than 250, actually. Or about 250. Personal debt per citizen, not per family. Well, that number is about 14 times higher than that. Little more, at 58,000. That's insane. Credit card debt, $1 trillion. Student loan debt, $1 trillion. Mortgage debt, $15 trillion. The only ones whom are allowed to mine fiat debt notes legally are what they would call the money makers, the Federal Reserve and the banking system. For Federal Reserve, they have their own interest rates and loan it out to banks. But even when you deposit fiat currency in your bank, the bank can then loan it out and thus create new currency to other people. And that's why it's just a matter of when and not if. To me, this could happen this year, next year, or this decade, next decade, or the next decade after that. It's just a matter of when. For if you were to understand how the world was moving and what the world looked like 1,000 years ago, it would have only been a matter of when before the East would find the West. Because the Atlantic Ocean, once you can figure out how to tread those waters, it's only a guarantee that you're going to find some part of the land. Regardless if your voyage started close to Scandinavia or close to Africa. Okay. So this really wasn't a chart video by any means. It's just talking about different things. And that's what I'll name it, because I'm trying to figure out the name of this right now. So talking about different things. That's the name of this video. Thank you for tuning in. Have yourself a great day. Bye-bye.